This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Egyptian Prime Minister visits victims of blast that killed 3 Vietnamese tourists near Cairo pyramids. Thousands flee to Maiduguri after a Boko Haram attack in Nigeria's northeastern town of Baga. Voting machines delivered to polling stations ahead of Sunday's vote in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Turtle in Nairobi. Let's take a look at other top stories making headlines. Also coming up in the show, Day 8 claims a 6-wicket victory over Pakistan on Day 3 of the first test. Let's start in Egypt, where the Interior Ministry has confirmed the death of 3 Vietnamese tourists and an Egyptian guide. They were killed when a roadside bomb hit their tour bus less than 4 kilometers from the world-famous Giza pyramids. At least 10 people have been injured. Reports say the bus was hit by an explosion from an improvised device hidden near a wall at around 6:15 p.m. local time. An investigator at the scene says the device is likely to have been planted near the wall. No immediate claim of responsibility was reported. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouly visited the scene and said the government would provide necessary medical care to all those who were injured. The bombing is the first deadly attack against foreign tourists in Egypt for over a year.
Sometimes attacks such as this one can occur, and it may happen again in the future. There isn't a country in the world where one can say that they are 100% safe. We communicated with the Vietnamese embassy, and the tourism minister will be meeting with the Vietnamese ambassador shortly. We are trying to contain the impact of this incident as much as possible. But the most important thing is to provide medical care to all those who were injured. We give our deepest condolences to those who lost their lives in this incident, whether Egyptian or tourists who died.
Adel El Marouki is in Cairo and joins us with more details. Adel, let me begin by asking, what is the latest so far, and has anyone claimed responsibility over these attacks?
So far, no group has officially claimed responsibility for these attacks. The death and the injury remains in numbers as is. 4 have been confirmed dead, 3 Vietnamese and an Egyptian, while the rest have been injured. About 16 people were on board that bus, 14 Vietnamese and 2 Egyptians. The Egyptian tour guide passed away and the driver was slightly injured. The Egyptian police troops have continued with their counter-terrorism efforts, and earlier this morning they announced killing 40 terrorists according to a police statement, 27 of them in Giza, where the incident happened, but there was no relation announced between those who have been allocated and killed and the perpetrators of the bus attack.
Adel, what do you think could have led to these attacks?
Well, it is still not clear, but quite commonly throughout the past few years, Egypt has been seeing an increase in attacks and attempted terrorist attacks during the holiday seasons, from the 24th of December, the Christmas Eve in the West, to the 7th of January, the Christmas here in Egypt, the Coptic Egyptian Christmas. Throughout that time, we've seen numerous attacks taking place last year, the year before, and so forth. So it is quite common for the Egyptian security forces to heighten the security measures nationwide, mainly to protect holiday areas, touristic sites, and churches. Buffer zones have been created around over 2,000 churches nationwide to create an isolation and make sure that no vehicle can pass by. Only those pedestrians who have valid national ID could enter for the New Year's and Christmas prayers. Other than that, the country has a high state of alert, but the presence itself cannot be in every street. The passengers of the Vietnamese bus attack happened on a way on the route that comes from the pyramids of Giza going to a ring road, one of the main high roads that surrounds Greater Cairo, Egypt. So it is a regular route for most civilians and most Egyptians on a daily basis. And this is where the attack has happened. The bomb was planted on the side of the road and detonated when the bus was right next to it.
All right, Adel, would you say that this incident has had an immediate impact on tourism? What's your take on that?
Immediate impact on tourism is not clear yet. Even up until today, the normal flights coming to Sharm el-Sheikh area to Egypt have been ongoing. Of course, there wouldn't be time for people to cancel, especially the flights that came within the next few hours from the event. We're talking about a bit over 12 hours since the incident took place, as you said, 6 p.m. Yesterday. So it's still less than a day for the event itself. Sharm el-Sheikh has seen some of the first flights coming, for example, from Serbia for the first time since the flight ban has been imposed back when the Russian plane crash happened in 2015. But there are concerns that there will be impact on the tourism sector. 2018 has been a great touristic year, over 50% growth in the tourism sector. The number of tourists jumped from 2.7 million tourists in the first half of 2018 to 4.6 million. It's a significant jump, about 70% jump in the number of tourists and even the number of revenues coming from the tourism sector itself. So there is significant progress that has been going on. And from what we've seen, the reaction from the tourism minister and the government was quite shocked of the event. They are expecting that it will have an impact, but how big and how influential that impact will be, I think the coming days will make it clearer.
All right, thank you for that update. It's always a pleasure having your insights. That's Adel El-Marouki reporting from Cairo. Moving on, thousands have fled after Islamist militants attacked a military base in Baga, east of Borno State. 10 people, including a member of the military, died as a result. According to authorities, the Islamist militants and Nigerian troops have been fighting around the town. The Nigerian government, however, insists that they are tackling the matter accordingly.
According to the military, jihadists from the ISIL-supported Islamic State West Africa province overran a naval base and a multinational joint task force post in the fishing town of Baga. This was after a fierce battle, but the Nigerian army assures that everything is under control.
We have taken control of Baga. I was talking about the positions yesterday when we were militating to be able to stabilize the place. So Baga is not in the hands of Boko Haram. I say again, Baga is not in the hands of Boko Haram. They contested it, but they've lost the contest.
This attack is the latest in a string of strikes on military bases in the northeast. Boko Haram's aim is to create an Islamic state in northeast Nigeria. It has killed about 30,000 people and forced over 2.7 million to flee their homes since 2009.
Of course, all people are fleeing Baka, both civilians and indeed military personnel. Nobody was left behind. You will feel sorry for the people.
Baga was the scene of mass killings by Boko Haram militants in 2015, when hundreds, possibly thousands of people died and much of the town was destroyed. The Nigerian government, however, insists that it is mopping up and cleaning up Boko Haram. Jin Keo, CGTN.
Voting machines, booths, and other election materials have been delivered to polling stations in Kinshasa ahead of the postponed historic vote this Sunday. The election was due to take place on December the 23rd, but was delayed for a week due to a fire at an electoral commission depot that destroyed thousands of voting machines and ballot papers. Frustration has mounted across the country after repeated election delays. There has also been unrest over the past week that is feared could spread depending on the outcome of the election. A poll released on Friday indicates that opposition candidate Martin Fayula is favored to win, but some observers have raised concern about the country's preparedness for the poll.
I feel these elections will not go the way they should. We must avoid spilling Congolese blood after the vote. We must. The authorities must avoid this. The authorities need to avoid that to make sure things are easier for the future of the country.
As a Christian, I think that we will have a good country after the election. There will be new things that will start with the person who will win the bet.
The head of the Electoral Commission of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Corneille Nangaa, has confirmed that there would be no further delays and presidential elections will proceed as scheduled on Sunday.
Le 30, c'est dimanche, nous allons tous voter.
On the 30th, that is this Sunday, we shall all vote. This Sunday there shall be an election. We shall vote for our next president of the republic. We shall vote for our national and provincial deputies.
The SADC called on us to sign a commitment that before, during and after the elections, everything will go well. We told SADC that the problem is not with us, the candidates. The problem is that it is the Independent National Electoral Commission which has not led the process correctly and in conformity with the law and the electoral calendar, that the CENI takes unilateral decisions on its own and without consulting the others.
President Joseph Kabila of the Democratic Republic of Congo says he's leaving office contented with the achievements he has made during his tenure of 17 years. He cites the unification of the country as one of his biggest accomplishments. CGTN's Chris Ochemringa had a one-on-one interview with him in the DRC's capital, Kinshasa. Let's take a look.
The biggest achievement has and will always be the reunification of this country. If we are speaking and talking to you today in Kinshasa, it wasn't the case 18 years ago. Because 18 years ago, the Congo was just a name. The Congo was a multitude of areas under the occupation of a country, occupation of an armed group, until 2001, when we managed to reunify the country. And after that, to organize the first elections, that is also an achievement in 2006. And then the second round of elections in 2011, and we're organizing our third elections in 2018. So apart from that, of course, not only reunification, but we've also managed to restart the reconstruction process in this country, which was non-existent. So if you've moved around and if you find time to move around the Congo, you'll see a number of infrastructures that were non-existent 10 years ago, and I hope that this will be the trend. We wanted to achieve economic stability, monetary stability. Did we achieve or have we achieved that? The answer is yes. Our economy is stable. We have a growth rate that has been positive over the last 15 years, positive growth rate of between 3.5% to 5%. We even went up to 7% 5 years ago. Our currency is stable, has been stable over the last 15 years. We also stated that we were going to start or restart the reconstruction process in this country. Did we restart the reconstruction process? The answer is yes. I talked about infrastructures that were non-existent over the last 10, 15 years. Those infrastructures are there. And in fact, as we speak and as we're going to elections, we still have infrastructures that are still being built.
What about your lowest moment?
The lowest moment. I always hate to think about the lowest moments. I'm a positive thinker. I always want to think about what's positive. But we've had our highs and lows. Probably the lowest moments was when the integrity of this country, territorial integrity of this country, was under threat or threatened. The meaning in 2012, when we had lost the town of Goma and other areas. Those were some of the lowest moments. Lowest moments also when you have intercommunal fighting, just like what we have in the areas of Yumbi today, or in Kasai a year ago. Those have always been low moments.
Here are some reactions from Kinshasa residents.
The plan for the future is not according to one person, but together we can take an idea and realize it. Now it is up to them as leaders to stay united and take direct action.
If the new president brings new ideas, it would be good because we are suffering a lot in our country. As for the strike today, we did not know about it as we have no electricity. If we had known, I wouldn't have come, so there is no way for us to get new information. It is sad what is happening to our brothers in Beni. Their chance to vote has been delayed until March. We are suffering a lot in this country.
This is Africa Live on CGTN. When we return, protests continue in Sudan against the high cost of living. Ghana to create 6 new regions after a majority voted in a referendum.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Well, activists claim that thousands joined demonstrations on Friday in a string of neighborhoods across the Sudanese capital of Khartoum. They are the latest in a wave of demonstrations that began across much of Sudan on December 19th. They were first against price rises and shortages, but have turned to calls against President al-Bashir. In the Khartoum capital suburb of Dumran, protesters chanted for freedom, peace, and justice. Sudan's information minister said 19 people had been killed during the protest, including 2 members of the security forces.
In the northern province, there has been 3 mortalities. In River Nile province, 5 mortalities, 6 in Gataref and 3 at the White Nile, and 2 security members were killed in this protest. The total is 19 deaths.
In Ghana, the government is set to create 6 new regions after the majority of people voted in favor of the move in a referendum. It will increase the number of regional authorities from 10 to 16 and will contribute to efforts to improve the country's decentralization system. But as CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports, not everyone is in support of the creation of new regions.
Richard Dogbe has lived in Central Kofe Bume, a community in the northern parts of the Volta region of Ghana, since he was a child. He is one of many residents whose lives will be affected by the creation of the proposed Oti region to be carved out of the Volta region. He says it may affect his ability to access health care in Hohoi, a municipality closer to his community, which has been excluded from the proposed new region.
The only thing I'm afraid of is maybe one day Hohoi people will say, if one of our person Gussie, we should send it. We should send a fellow to Jessica or wherever hospital. We shouldn't come there. This is what I'm afraid of. And the big market days is at Ohwe. If now they come and seize us that, we shouldn't come and buy things for the. Where are we going?
Richard used his vote in the referendum to tell the government he doesn't want the Oti region to be created.
In Central Kofe Bume, which is close to the border of the proposed Oti region, residents are divided on the creation of the new region. Polling officials here say voter turnout for the referendum has been low.
The total results of the referendum from 9 districts to be carved out of the voter region show 98% of electorates voting yes to the creation of the Oti region, a strong mandate for the government to create the additional 6 regions. Most of the communities which will be carved to create the new regions have poor road networks and lack basic social amenities. Those in support of the creation of the new regions say it will help bring more development to their communities.
I feel that if the region is divided into 2, then automatically we'll get development, which is better than how it is today. Because from what I write down, there is no hospital even when for a referral person. They have to travel all the way to this place, and the roads are not good.
Richard may be against the new regions, but he says he now hopes it will at least bring the desired results in his community, which lacks basic amenities such as potable water and hospitals. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, Volta Region, Ghana.
This year, there were at least 18 presidential and legislative polls on the continent, some of which would have heralded a new era in African politics as opposition parties won. But in much of Africa, incumbents were re-elected, often with a huge margin. And for others still, trouble was never far away. CGTN's Robert Nagila takes us through the political transitions of 2018.
In 2018, there were at least 18 legislative and presidential elections in Africa. The year started with the swearing-in of former international footballer George Weah as president of Liberia. In March, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was re-elected as president of Egypt with a landslide victory. 2 months later, in July, President Ibrahim Keita of Mali won a second term with 67% of the vote, while Cameroon's Paul Biya was elected for a 7-year term in October. But it's the political transitions that grabbed the headlines in 2018. Hounded by corruption allegations, South Africa's President Jacob Zuma was forced out of office in February. His deputy, Cyril Ramaphosa, was sworn in shortly after. Still in the same month, Ethiopia's Hailemariam Desalegn resigned as Prime Minister. Abiy Ahmed was appointed in his place in April. In Sierra Leone, opposition candidate Julius Maada Bio defeated the ruling party's candidate Samura Kamara in a runoff election. In Zimbabwe, Emerson Mnangagwa won July's election, becoming only Zimbabwe's second president since independence in 1980. The previous leader, Robert Mugabe, had been ousted by the military in 2017. But it would be the Democratic Republic of Congo that would grab the headlines as the year came to a close. Elections scheduled for 23rd of December were postponed by a week after fire destroyed electoral material in the capital, Kinshasa. President Kabila is not allowed by the Constitution to seek another term.
In the latest development in Madagascar, Andry Rajoelina has been declared the winner of the presidential election runoff. This is according to results announced on Thursday by the country's Electoral Commission. But after the announcement, rival candidate Mark Ravalomanana's team has asked for the cancellation of the poll result in a filing with the High Constitutional Court. The court has 9 days to decide whether to confirm the provisional results. 32 migrants saved by the German nonprofit rescue organization Sea-Watch are still stranded after 7 days at sea. No European country is opening its ports to receive them. The rescue ship Sea-Watch 3, which sails under a Dutch flag, rescued them on December the 22nd. They are mainly from Nigeria, Libya, and Cote d'Ivoire. There are several children among them.
All of the rescued people were saved in the central Mediterranean Sea off the Libyan coast. The closest, safest European ports would be either Malta or in Italy. But both countries have closed their borders to rescue organizations, taking only severe medical cases.
The second stage of the rescue is being denied by the countries that claim to be civilized, that claim to have human rights at their core, that claim to be places of peace and equality, and yet we're on the fringes of it right now in a boat, uncertain about where we will go next. This is impossible.
Since the beginning of 2018, according to the United Nations International Organization for Migration, 113,145 migrants and refugees have reached Europe crossing the Mediterranean Sea, and at least 2,242 have died or are still missing in the attempt.
This is a really, really simple situation. You have people that have survived like unspeakable trauma, absolutely unspeakable trauma, and they're now sat on a search and rescue boat that has been funded by like civil society within Europe because governments aren't doing their part. Not only are they not doing their part, they've now escalated that where they're actually stopping rescues from happening.
During 2018, the arrivals in Spain overtook those in Italy. More than 23,000 landed in Italy, a much lower figure than previous years due to the agreements with the Libyan authorities to stem human trafficking. According to the IOM, 56,480 migrants and refugees reached Europe through Spanish coasts, while 31,310 people landed in Greece and 1,194 in Malta. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
The past year has seen women's movements grow and spread around the world. In fact, in the U.S., 2018 is labeled the Year of the Woman. That's because a record number of women ran for political office and many won. But as CGTN's Nick Harper reports, the Year of the Woman had a limited influence when governments were unable or unwilling to tackle issues that affect the female population.
In the hands of justice. In South Sudan, women are coming forward to relive the nightmare of rape or other acts of sexual violence as their attackers stand trial. This mobile court, supported by the UN, is hearing cases in the northern town of Bentui for the first time in over 4 years. Meantime, the UN just finished its annual End Violence Against Women campaign.
Violence against women and girls must end now, and we all have a role to play.
But during the 2-week focus on sexual violence here at the UN, more than 150 women and children came forward in South Sudan with tales of rape taking place over a 12-day period. Women's movements like Me Too have spread around the world, demanding an end to sexual harassment and violence. This year's Nobel Peace Prize even paid tribute to 2 people working to combat sexual violence in Iraq and the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
We must think and believe it can be eliminated, and the UN can do a lot together with its member states.
And although globally the fundamental issue of protecting women's rights is the same, conflict countries often struggle to sufficiently deal with that.
I don't think any government or multilateral organisation has really figured out how to relate to the core elements of the Me Too movement and translate it into something that's meaningful.
In terms of gender equality, the UN is leading by example. This year it achieved gender parity in its senior management team and among its officials leading in-country teams. But in many of those places, the laws work against those goals, from discriminatory land rights to laws about child marriage and female genital mutilation. Nick Harper, CGTN, New York.
All right, let's recap the headlines at this hour. The Interior Ministry in Egypt has confirmed the death of 3 Vietnamese tourists and an Egyptian guide. They were killed when a roadside bomb blast hit their tour bus less than 4 kilometers from the world-famous Giza pyramids. At least 10 people have been injured. Reports say the bus was hit by an explosion from an improvised device hidden near a wall at around 6:15 p.m. local time. Thousands have fled after Islamist militants attacked a military base in Baga, east of Borno State. 10 people, including a member of the military, died as a result. According to authorities, the Islamist militants and Nigerian troops have been fighting around the town. The Nigerian government, however, insists that they are tackling the matter accordingly. Voting machines, booths, and other election materials have been delivered to polling stations in Kinshasa ahead of the postponed historic vote this Sunday. The election was due to take place on December the 23rd, but was delayed for a week due to a fire at an electoral commission depot that destroyed thousands of voting machines and ballot papers. And protests continue in Sudan on Friday in a that began across much of Sudan on December the 19th. They were first against price rises and shortages, but have turned to calls against President al-Bashir. And that is a wrap of your top stories. All right, time now for a short break. When we return, and the president is now raising the stakes. CGTN's Owen